Women's world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka keen to rematch Nick Kyrgios after losing battle of the sexes clash. I love revenge. Aryna Sabalenka has described her battle of the sexes clash against Nick Kyrgios as a cool experience and would love a rematch to exact revenge. Last week's exhibition saw the Australian overcome the women's world number 1 in straight sets. The pair can soon be seen in action at the Australian Open, live on TNT Sports and Discovery+. The court was quiet in that peculiar way only tennis courts can be, quiet not because nothing is happening, but because everything is about to. The lines gleamed like promises. The net waited, indifferent. Somewhere between the echo of the last rally and the hush of anticipation lived Aryna Sabalenka's favorite feeling, the itch to compete again. World number 1 is a crown that carries weight. It presses on the shoulders during warm-ups and sits in the mind between serves. For Aryna Sabalenka, that weight has never been a burden. It's fuel. And lately, that fuel has burned with a particular color, revenge red, sparked by a loss that wasn't supposed to matter but did. The Battle of the Sexes exhibition had been billed as spectacle. Tennis as theater. Entertainment, not legacy. Aryna had walked into it with her trademark grin and the thunder in her groundstrokes, expecting fun, noise, maybe a little chaos. Nick Kyrgios, across the net, had brought exactly that: improvisation, audacity, the grin of someone who thrives when the script dissolves. When the last point fell Kyrgios's way, the crowd roared. Aryna laughed too at first, because champions know how to lose with grace. But somewhere beneath the laughter, something else flickered. "I love revenge," she said later, not as a threat but as a confession. Aryna Sabalenka's world is not built on quiet victories. It is built on sound. The crack of her forehand. The shout after a winner. The hum of self-belief that doesn't ask permission. Women's tennis has always made room for elegance, for precision, for patience. Aryna adds something else: force without apology. Her rise to number 1 was not smooth. It came with double faults that felt like public arguments with herself, with losses that stung because they came when expectations were loud. But the Sabalenka story has never been about perfection. It's about defiance, the refusal to soften, to shrink, to be anything other than exactly as powerful as she is. So when she talks about a rematch with Nick Kyrgios, it isn't about gender. It isn't about proving something to men or women or anyone watching from the cheap seats of opinion. It's about the oldest law in sport: if you lose and you care, you play again. Nick Kyrgios represents a different universe of tennis. One where creativity is casual, where rules feel bendable, where pressure is met with a shrug and a smile. Against Aryna, that universe collided with another, one forged in repetition, resilience, and relentless ambition. Their first clash felt like a spark. Aryna's power met Nick's unpredictability. She drove the ball like a declaration. He answered with touch, angles, mischief. He disrupted rhythm. She tried to overpower disruption. In the end, he found a way through. That's what stayed with her. Not the loss itself, but the way it happened. Because Aryna Sabalenka doesn't fear losing. She fears unfinished business. In the women's world of tennis, Sabalenka stands as a reminder that dominance can be loud. That femininity does not have to whisper. Her game is a manifesto written in topspin and grit. Women can hit this hard, this often, this unapologetically. A rematch with Kyrgios would be more than a novelty. It would be a conversation between styles. Between chaos and force. Between a player who bends the moment and one who breaks through it. Aryna imagines it differently the second time. She imagines the serve landing deeper, heavier. The return planted like a flag. She imagines staying patient when the trick shots come, steady when the crowd gasps. Revenge, to her, isn't rage. It's refinement. It's learning the lesson and teaching it back. "I love revenge," she says again, and this time it sounds like a smile you earn, not one you flash. There is something powerful about a woman at the top of her sport asking for more challenge, not less. Aryna Sabalenka does not protect her number 1 ranking by hiding. She protects it by hunting discomfort, by stepping into matchups that blur categories and invite scrutiny. Because in her world, growth lives on the other side of risk. A second battle of the sexes would carry more than exhibition lights. It would carry intention. Aryna would walk on court not to entertain, but to answer. To test how far her game, and women's tennis, can stretch when it refuses to be boxed in. Win or lose, she would swing the same way, fully. The net still waits. The lines still gleam. Somewhere in the near future, the crowd might gather again, buzzing with curiosity. And across the court, Aryna Sabalenka will bounce the ball, eyes steady, shoulders loose, heart loud. World number 1. Challenger. Competitor. Revenge, for her, is not about the past. It's about the next point. And she's already ready to play it.